Hello and welcome to Yom Monitor Brief. It's May 8th. I'm Kristen Tolman. Today's main segment is a conversation with Barin Kayaoğlu on German President Steinmeier's recent visit to Turkey, the success and signs of the relationship moving forward. But first, let's get you caught up on the headlines. With no breakthrough in ceasefire negotiations in Cairo yet, the Israeli negotiating team will remain in Egypt for further discussions as CIA Chief William Burns met Wednesday in Israel with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. A Palestinian Fatah official slammed Israel's Rafah push, but is hopeful for a deal. Abbas Zaki told Al Monitor he's hopeful the strong international response will leave Israel with no choice but to withdraw from the Rafah crossing and potentially accept a deal. The Biden administration paused a planned shipment to Israel of air-to-ground munitions last week over concerns that Israeli leaders were nearing a decision to launch a military operation into Rafah without adequate preparations to protect civilians. The U.S. military has completed the construction of its Gaza aid pier, but weather conditions mean it is currently unsafe to move the two-part facility into place, the Pentagon said Tuesday. The United States announced Tuesday it had brought back 24 Western citizens, half of them Americans, from Islamic State prison camps in northeastern Syria, where tens of thousands have languished. Italian Prime Minister Meloni visited Libya on Tuesday to sign cooperation agreements with leaders from both administrations in the conflict-torn country. UN Atomic Watchdog Chief Grossi on Tuesday decried completely unsatisfactory cooperation from Tehran after returning from Iran, where he urged leaders to adopt concrete measures to address concerns over its nuclear program. France on Tuesday accused Iran of employing a policy of state hostage-taking and blackmail, as it called for the release of a French couple held in jail for the last 2 years. Families of hostages held in Gaza have urged the United States and other governments with citizens among the captives to pressure Israel to strike a deal with Hamas for their return. Al Jazeera will look to pursue all possible legal action until the end to challenge Israel's ban on its operations there, the TV network news director said. Oil giant Saudi Aramco said Tuesday its first quarter net profit dipped 14.5% on year to $27.27 billion as the Gulf Kingdom kept production cuts in place. Now, on to the main segment. Hey, Barin, welcome to the Al Monitor Brief.
Thank you for having me, Kristen.
So recently, Germany's President Frank Steinmeier visited Turkey, a testament to the maturity of the relations between Turkey and Germany. Talk me through what were some signals from this trip, and especially the defense side that you wrote about.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me again. Couple of things. So you mentioned the maturity. Turkish-German relations have not been tip-top for over 10 years now, with a lot of European countries, especially the big two, France and Germany, EU countries, France and Germany, losing any interest in the possibility of Turkey's full membership in the European Union. The impetus for reform and improved relations between the two sides, especially within Turkey, has actually really gone down. So there was almost little to no incentive for the Turkish side to improve, standards for democracy, rule of law, for the economy, and you couple that with the refugee deal between the EU and Turkey, where Turkey, without becoming a full EU member, is essentially doing a lot of the work that the European Union's border protection agency, Frontex, should be doing at what a lot of Turkish voters consider very small money. So, they're not undocumented migrants can't go into the EU, but Turkey can't deport many of them back to their origin countries. So there was a lot of tension in their relations in the last couple of years. And even as recently as Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's visit to Berlin late last year, there was a lot of tension in the air over a host of issues, some of which I mentioned, and then the war in Gaza, and the differences between Turkey and its Western allies in supporting on the Western side the Israelis, and on the Turkish side the support for Hamas. So there was a lot of tension in the air. But when President Steinmeier came to Turkey, it looked like the relations have never been better. There was a lot of lighthearted moments, which Ezgi wrote on Al Monitor about the Döner Kebab diplomacy, if you will, and so did Amber'in, our senior correspondent. So so it was a bit of a inflection point. It wasn't quite sure where the relations were going to go, but the visit, President Steinmeier's visit, went swimmingly. Yeah.
Okay, and whenever there's this high-level diplomatic visit, you know, government officials talk in language that is you kind of have to read between the lines. Talk about some of these deals. I mean, then you wrote here the Turkish government wants to buy 40 Eurofighter Typhoons. There's an Airbus deal that Turkish Airlines wants, and the Turkish Airlines deal seems to have gone. Some parts of it, at least, seems to have gone through shortly after the visit. Is that kind of a sign that that the visit was a success as
Mhm.
well?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the visit was a success in the sense that one of the folks, one of the experts I spoke to in my article, Professor Murat Önsoy of Hacettepe University here in Ankara, said that despite all of the problems, it's clear that the two sides can compartmentalize their problems from their areas of cooperation. So you mentioned the Airbus deal. That's the European consortium that produces the large body civilian airliners. And Turkish Airlines put in an order of 350 of them of various classes, two classes, both sort of medium range as well as long range Airbuses. And there was an expectation in Turkey when that deal surfaced in late 2023, around December, that Ankara could then couple that order with a more concrete request for the Eurofighter Typhoons, the fighter jets for its for the Turkish Air Force. So a lot of the F-16s, U.S. made F-16s, or I should say Turkish made under U.S. licensed F-16s, are aging, and Turkey wants to replace those, and it sees the Eurofighters as a viable alternative. So another expert I spoke to in my article said that Turkey is trying to sort of make this a more competitive bidding process between the U.S. and the European consortium that produces the Eurofighters to see if it can get a better deal out of them. Now, there are a lot of complexities in it, and I don't want to go into detail, but that's one area of cooperation between Turkey and Germany, or one potential area of cooperation. There's a lot of issues that are outstanding, one of which is that Germany is still reluctant to sell the Eurofighters to Turkey. The other consortium members, Italy, Spain, and the United Kingdom, seem to be on board. Germany, not so much, because of their differences over who to back in the Syrian civil war. But there's another area of cooperation, which is the European Sky Shield Initiative, the German-led ESSI initiative, which is essentially a pan-European, or at least a prospective pan-European missile defense system that someday, if there is, God forbid, an all-out war, or even a limited war with Russia, then this is a system, an air defense system that would knock out at least some of the incoming Russian missiles out of the sky, the way that Israel, with backing from Britain, U.S., and France and Jordan, was able to shoot down Iranian missiles on the night of April 13th, 14th. So those are some of the areas where the two sides, Turkey and Germany, seem to be talking to each other in a positive way.
Fascinating. Yeah, Ankara has such a marketplace approach to trade, to diplomatic relations. It's kind of fascinating. They view it as, okay, sure, we have these F-16s, but it's a marketplace. Let's see what else we can get. As they fear that maybe the U.S. Congress could, slap sanctions on it. I
And that's always a possibility.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, is there anything that our listeners should really look out for on the Turkish-German defense side and ties?
For now, nothing urgent, but things sometimes happen quickly, and obviously bureaucrats on both sides sometimes visit each other, and some mid-level talk sometimes quickly escalates into some high-level decision-making that gets the ball rolling. But for now, the important thing to keep in mind when discussing, Turkey's relations with the West, and especially Germany, is to appreciate that, this used to be a very unequal relationship, where, going back 100 years, the imperial Germany was essentially bankrolling the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century and for much of World War I. And a version of this happened in the early Cold War years. In the 1950s, West Germany was part of a consortium that bailed out the Turkish government, which was going bankrupt. But now, today, this is a near peer relationship now. Turkish-German trade is more than 50 billion euros now, and there's a small surplus, not a major one, to Germany's favor. But Turkish firms have become an integral part of German supply chains, and there are 3.5 million Turkish Germans who live now. President Steinmeier got a lot of flack for bringing doner kebab when they're award-winning Turkish-German movie directors. Two Turkish-German MDs were the ones who produced the life-saving vaccine, one of the life-saving vaccines during COVID. So everyone was like, well, is this really what Turkish Germans were about? And they got some flack for it. So this is a very fascinating, complex relationship. On the defense industry side, wait and see. I expect some balls to roll this year, both on the European Sky Shield Initiative and the Eurofighter deal. At the very least, we'll know if the Eurofighter deal is going to happen or not, or if Turkey is going to go in the direction of buying new F-16s from the United States.
Pardon, that's just a great point, and that's all those that you just made. And when you, at the very start, when you brought up a century ago, it reminded me that's why there's that. And on the Istanbul skyline in the old city, there's that's now a high school, right? It's now a high school,
Yeah.
German high school, that overlooks the old Ottoman bank put in place by the Germans to collect their funds. Okay, Barton, thank you so much. We really appreciate the update.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to talk to you.
Nice to chat. That's it for today, May 8th. You can read all these stories and more impacting the region at allmonitor.com.